Welcome to Be the Light, a program created by the May Organization to spotlight solutions for a stronger community. Be the Light, Hope in Our Community, is designed to shine a light on the challenges our neighbors face and work together to create positive change. Their mission is to address critical issues facing the community with a primary focus on homelessness and food insecurity, but also more than that, far more than that. Their aim is to raise awareness, inspire action, and bring positive change to those who are in need. I'm Deb Moraes. Once again, we thank you for tuning in. I'm your host and moderator, and in this segment, we'd like to once again introduce to my immediate left, Isa Price, who is Executive Director of the May Organization. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Happy to have you here. And our founder of the May Organization, who is Martina Javid. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
In this segment, we'll delve deeper into what the May Organization calls basic needs assistance. So let me toss this to you, Isa. What does basic needs assistance mean? What does the May Organization do?
So from our perspective, the basic needs piece has different components. We feel that there's different areas that a human being needs to survive, to show dignity, right? One of the pieces is the meal site. So hot meals, bag lunches, that's one of the pieces within our program. Second one is the rental grants, as we call, or the rental assistance program. We also provide the third piece to the assistance is clothing and toiletries. And finally, or actually I should say there's two components to the final piece, would be food assistance, which we haven't touched much in the first segment. And I'll go into a little bit more on that one. And finally, the outreach piece, which is important in all of the above. So those are the main criterias that falls under this program.
So it's not just food and shelter, it's others things. So let's go a little bit more deeply. So Martina, when you talk about outreach, what does outreach mean in your organization?
Yeah, outreach to me and within our organization means we go to where we know the people are. We meet them where they are. And
physically and
emotionally.
Both, okay.
I really, always emphasize that we need to approach a person body, mind, spirit. And in that outreach approach, we begin fostering the relationship like we've talked in the other segment at our meal sites. We foster that familial sense of belonging, and when we ask them the questions, they don't feel like we're trying to judge them, like, what are you doing here, They know that we are really there to try and help them, and we begin assessing and finding out what their needs are. A lot of them are housed, but they are food insecure. Some of them are chronically homeless, and they ask us for tents or sleeping bags. So that's outreach. And then I always say, please come to our holistic programs. They're all invited to our holistic programs.
And where are they?
Well, at first we brought them outside, and I think that we're going to start doing that again. That was very successful because going to them is better. They're gonna receive it. Whereas if we also provide them at the center, of course. We have our wellness center that is geared to provide these programs, but it's difficult most of the times for them to get to us.
The transportation element?
Transportation element. They may not be feeling well that day, so coming to them is something that we're doing again. And we've brought Reiki to different facilities. I myself provide the Reiki, and then we've brought yoga. We've done yoga outside, and to them it's very funny when we say we're going to do yoga today, because they're like, look at me, I can do all of this. And we make them understand that it's not just about that, it's about centering the mind and going within. and we provide various programs.
That's very interesting to hear. I know we touched upon the word holistic before,
Yeah.
but that is amazing that you are providing the bar of soap as well as
It's the whole
Yes.
person, the whole person, right? We're all humans, and we all need the same things. We all need care, we all need empathy, we all need love, we all need to feel like we look okay, to go out there and even walk around.
To be listened to.
To be listened, to be heard. And like I said, imagine being a woman and a mother, and you're out there and you don't have these
What you need.
essential needs.
So you touched the piece about transportation to the holistic programs, and part of our providing our basic needs programs and part of the outreach piece. We've been very lucky. Last year, we were able to purchase our first vehicle
Yeah.
due to the Champlain Foundation. So we now can provide and do go and get our clients and bring them to the May Wellness Center, which this has been a game changer, from transporting food to cooks
Furniture.
to furniture. We do furniture.
Everything.
We haven't touched on that. We will in a little bit. Transportation is very critical, and we are very, very happy that now we can assist some of our clients with that.
Yeah.
So let's stay with that transportation, because I have a question relative to that. If you are serving the needs of, say, a mom and a child, the child might be in school. Wherever you could find a place for them to have shelter might not be where the child once went to school, or maybe he has or she has needs for special school. Do you use
In
transportation?
fact, we have a case like this right now.
Yes.
We've had to put a mom at a hotel because her child is a special needs child. He's not able to be just at any shelter. He needs special circumstances. And so she's at the hotel, but she couldn't just be anywhere. She had to be somewhere where her child could go to the school that caters to his needs, because, and so, yeah, transportation is very important.
We can't commit to providing that transportation every single day.
Right.
We just don't have the manpower to do that type of
Certainly,
outreach.
certainly.
However, on special occasions and if as needed, we do provide that, and we do go all the time above and beyond.
All the time.
That you can do it at all is
Yeah.
quite remarkable.
Yeah. Right.
So Rhode Island is a relatively small state, but if you have one vehicle and you're trying to serve
Right.
this many people, that's difficult. So Massachusetts has its shelters, and of course Massachusetts is larger than
Yeah.
Rhode Island is. I know that they have shelters that are for the youth or for families or for individuals. And you, as we were talking about this in our first segment, you're able to accommodate these, maybe not in separate shelters that are just for youth or whatever, but you're able to find accommodations if they're not in a tent, if they choose and would like help
Yeah,
with
yeah.
their shelter or finding a
Right.
temporary home or rent, you're able to find a place for whatever, whether it's youth
And
or...
it's not easy.
And the goal is never for us to be that first resource to put them somewhere. The goal is always to support them to go through the state, to go through the coordinator entry system, to go through that system to get a bed or...
Which is very important, the coordinated
Yes.
entry system in Rhode Island, because that's how we can adequately know how many individuals we have chronically homeless and how many in whole have experienced homelessness in Rhode Island. So
Right.
that is a very important first step, and we
Always the
follow
goal.
those guidelines at all times.
At all times.
And then procure the special areas where they need to be, which is not easy.
And then if there is those cases where there's no beds available, then we kick in with our services. Where do we place them first? Which motels? And sometimes there's her on the phone, I'm on the phone, the outreach coordinator is on the phone, trying to find reasonable rates, which hotels or motels are available within our budget. And we've had to place some in Massachusetts because we couldn't find availability. But yes, that's one way that we assist.
It sounds like even navigating the system, never mind actually, I started to speak about providing basic needs, which you do on so many levels, but even navigating the system, I'm sure most people, who, especially if they're initially encountered with some terrible
Yes.
situation, they would not know how to grapple with that. So you help them wend their way through?
Navigating the system is incredibly difficult. When someone is fighting for their life or they're experiencing abuse and like, what do I do? Where do I go? They don't know to always call coordinated entry. So a lot of times they hear about us through word of mouth and they'll ask us, we have to take them through that process. And it is a frustrating process, not due to anything that's really going wrong. It's because the system in whole needs to be better, I think, because a lot of times it takes a long time to get through and be able to get them that assistance. So it's not just frustrating for them, but for us as organizations throughout Rhode Island.
You were mentioning at the top of the segment some of the basic needs, and it was rental. Please expand on that if you would.
So over the past few years, we've always helped place individuals that needed assistance. It could be someone that's transitioning from a shelter to permanent housing, or someone that we assist from preventing of becoming homeless. So we have this rental assistance program, and what we do is we really have a criteria that we follow as to who qualifies and who doesn't. We give certain priority because, as I mentioned, funding is limited, but we do provide rent assistance, meaning 1 month's rent, or it could be the last month's rent. Sometimes we can do both, sometimes we can't, depending on the circumstances and on the income that the client has. We may have a portion of assistance, but regardless, we're there to assist them to get into housing. That's our goal, get them out of the shelter into permanent housing. And in addition to that piece, we also furnish those apartments if they need them. Not with the most elaborate and glamorous furniture. However, we have this community through our Facebook, and if anyone please follow us, we reach out. Hey, I have a family moving into housing. We're looking for furniture. And then we'll have this community pulling together. And then when we can't find the items that we need, then we'll go purchase it and furnish apartments. So that's also a part or a piece to assisting a person to permanent housing.
Seems that I have to ask, I'm sure that you have volunteers, as we spoke about before, and you have people who are willing to give you donations, but for the size and the scope of what you're offering, what are your other funding sources?
Okay, good question. As any other nonprofit organization, especially a small organization, it's a big job trying to get funding.
Certainly.
We thank our supporters mostly. We have donors that have been with May for years.
From the beginning.
They will come to every fundraising event and do support us through individual or recurring donations. We have a campaign right now that we really trying to see if we get more of the recurring donors.
Certainly.
It could be $10 a month. That will help, or whichever. That's one way. The other way is making partnership with all the different sponsors out there, meaning banks and different businesses, local businesses.
Yes.
Yep. Sometimes it takes a little longer than others getting a little funding. We have to build relationships, so it could be through them coming to us to volunteer and actually see what we're doing firsthand to get them monetary support. We do apply for grants through foundations. So those are, and of course we have major Kentucky Derby fundraiser coming up in May.
Our events are a major source of funding.
And we have our gala, Be the Light Gala in November, and a couple other small ones that supports our programs throughout the year.
Could you give us some idea about how many people you support? I mean, you're talking about meal centers, you're talking about rental assistance, and how many people and how many meals? What does that look like on a given
For
year?
that, I'm going to read, if you don't mind, because I
I'm
don't
glad
want to
that you
miss
have
it.
I'm glad that you have
So
it.
I brought it because it's important to not just throw a number there. It's important for me to show the progression on how much we are providing in meals over the years. So going back to 2021, we did a little over 12,000 meals. So 12,522, right?
That's
Big
substantial.
number,
Sure.
substantial for a small organization. At that time, 100% volunteers, right? Then we went to 2022 and we doubled that number. We went now over 24,000 meals. And when we talk about meals, we're talking about hot meals and bag lunches. So you come to the meal site, you have a nice, warm, nutritious meal, but we also make sure that you have a meal, sandwich, fruit.
And a lot of times it's PBJ because they can have it for breakfast when they wake up.
And they take it for their next meal, right? And then now in 2023, the numbers jumped again to 34,976 meals.
So if I'm following that, is that
Almost
triple?
Yes.
It's triple.
Almost. Yes. Just before coming here today, I briefly looked at the numbers, and for January, we already surpassed the number of meals served the same month last year.
So the
projection for this year is to
on the rise.
continue in that trend. And again, those are just meals. We also support numbers in the housing. Just a couple of years ago, we supported about 6 emergency motel shelters and 3 rent assistants. But last year, we were able to put 23 families into housing. We did 16 people where we took them off the street, placed them in motels. And out of those people, in addition to some of those that we supported with furniture, 7 more individuals that just needed the assistance on that piece. So now those are significant numbers for a small organization.
Yes.
But it's important to say that in addition to these numbers which come through our meal sites where we serve, we also got additional people coming in for assistance through the online portal. And since we've done that, we assisted over 527 families.
So through the online, they would ask for meals, assistance, shelter, or whatever it is that they need?
Yes,
Clothing,
holistic programs, yes.
So I can't quote the numbers in the Mass area, but I was looking at them the other day, and I was amazed to see their numbers. And as I'm hearing yours, quite frankly, are quite considerable. And here we're looking at Massachusetts being relatively a much larger state.
And I need to bring this up, that we do not do this alone. So at many of our locations, we need to recognize our partner agencies. There are organizations such as Help the Homeless RI. We Share Hope. We have Bread Lines. It really is a community of agencies. We tend to segment days. Okay, you cover this day a month or this week, and we cover this one. So that way there's more coverage for these meals. This is just our portion.
That's really amazing.
Yes.
And so the fact that you're, as we're saying, talking about basic needs, but in our other segments, and as you said before, equine therapy, Reiki, this is a broad-based platform that I'm not sure, well, I hope more people will get to learn about.
We hope so too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We know that in every state there's an increased amount of homelessness. The number of available homes is just so few relative to the need being so great. The people who come to you, I asked before how they get to you, but the people who come to you, I think that there is a perception that it's all Skid Row, but from what times you've mentioned, a few times you've alluded to here, the people who are coming in, this is not, I mean, you may have substance abuse, et cetera,
Yes, of
but
course.
what's the expanse of those who come to you?
Let's think about this. Nobody wants to grow up and their dream is to become homeless someday,
course
right?
not.
So something really tragic happens in their lives to get to this state. And many times it's generational, you know. It's like a family lineage of, you know, there's been poverty, there's been abuse, neglect, and so families struggling, especially post-pandemic. You know, so many people lost their jobs, and they didn't have that extra money to continue paying for their rent. So what do? In procurement of shelter or housing, they become homeless. And you know, mothers with children, you know, who've gone through abuse. I mean, it's people like us.
And in addition to that, we don't just serve at the meal sites individuals experiencing homelessness, right? So anyone can really come that's in need of a meal. So we have many people that are suffering from food insecurity, right? So at that large, there's a population there that they could be earning minimum wages, right? And they just don't have now I'm getting minimum wage, and now the increase in the rent and the amount of demand and the increases on and the affordability of housing, they just need meals. They just need just that little help to get them going.
And so that may be a short-term situation until
Right.
they perhaps find another way.
Right.
Suppose you have do you have a family, for example, who were fine together, getting along when they're together, but if there's divorce,
Yeah.
might you find mom and child or children
Many cases.
in that situation? And that's nothing
Yes.
to do with substance
I just
abuse?
received a call this morning, you know, a mom for a mom and two children. She's facing eviction, and she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to go into shelter for the protection of her children. You know, many people don't. Not that there's anything wrong. It's just their personal preference, and so they call us for guidance and assistance and funding.
And when someone comes to you and you provide, say it's a mother who's going to be in transition, divorce
Yeah.
and her living situation, do you do skills assessment to see what else she might be able to do to empower her to the next job or the next, whatever her next step is?
Thank you for asking that question. One of our goals for 2024 is to increase our capability to help more with the employment piece and the training piece. So currently we have just very limited workshops that we are providing, such as financial assistance, eating healthy on a budget, those types of programs that they go through our training. However, this year we want to focus more on extending that empowerment through training and partnerships with corporations to get them into jobs and to help them that way.
Do you have the resources to work with an possible employer plus deal with the job development skills that some of your people may need? Do you have the resources to do that?
Oh, yeah. That
time, money.
We're always in procurement of that employer that is willing to give these individuals a chance at a job, because in their mind, you know, are they going to get to work on time? Transportation is an issue. You know, it may be that they came for an interview and they didn't qualify, and so it's very difficult, but we hope to form a really strong network of employers that are willing to work with us and give these individuals a chance, even if it's on a temporary basis. You know, give them a chance, like a 6-month opportunity to see if they're going to show up, if they're going to do the job that is required of them, and not necessarily immediately dismiss them because they are facing homelessness.
Right, and we understand this is a big issue, right?
Yeah.
That May organization in itself cannot solve it all. However, we are actively searching for grants that can assist May organization to provide more and more assistance on a yearly basis. So we try to do as much as we can with the funding that we get. But of course, with limited funding, there's always that search for additional grants, or maybe to partner with a larger organization that can get us in there, and we could partner and support. But yeah, it's a struggle because of funding.
So do you find that, you talk about procurement, but also recruiting volunteers who have a specialty?
Right, and we do that, yes.
And are you actively trying to do that on the job side of it as much as anything else right now? Because I know that it's interesting.
She's
that
amazing at getting volunteers.
Well,
she
for
really
what you
is.
do, I can
That's one of many strengths.
For what you do and the kind of services that you provide, I can see where someone would want to be part of that, because it's certainly, you have such synergy with this. It's interesting. I also know that there are many people who are looking for good employees, but they don't always know where to find them. And who would think of going to your organization where you actually
Right.
might have a resource
Someone
of
that
people
we can refer to, yes.
who could actually help
Yeah.
you. So there's fundraising, there's recruiting too.
Yes.
And then there's always the home, actually the dwelling piece.
Yes.
So do you have to find homes that are up for sale too, or is that something that, do you actually look for physical properties or granny flats or?
Are you talking about to place
To
our
place people?
clients?
Yes. Do you have to look for that all the time, or do people say, we have some facilities, put this on your roster? How does that work out?
Right. So we don't have the manpower to do a lot of that searching, right? However, on some occasions, we have done that. We have our outreach coordinator that will assist, but we put that ownership on the person, and we will we will assist on a monetary basis, but we put some ownership on them. Say,
Yeah.
hey,
And that's part
you
of the
go look.
empowerment
Yes.
of the personal empowerment, is giving them that responsibility.
Yes.
We're going to meet you here, but you have to do your diligence as well,
To
so they
look.
can feel good that they took part in their progress out
That
of
doesn't
homelessness.
mean we may not call a landlord and
All the
say,
time,
hey,
actually.
yeah, all the time. We'll and say, hey, we're working. This person has shown that they really want, to improve themselves. We're working through this, and we'll talk to. There's many landlords that will work with us on that piece, but we need to put ownership on them as well. That where they committed to finding the place.
Yeah.
Clearly, your scope is wide, and that's terrific. This has been so helpful. We hope that you've found Be the Light an interesting segment. We hope that you'll continue to stay tuned. In coming segments, we will plan on bringing in other guests who are experts in either social services or people who've had personal experiences that they are willing to share with you. We thank you for tuning in. If you care to follow along and find out more about how you might be able to help, visit maeorganization.org. Thank you for tuning in. You too could be the light. Until next time, thank you.